Hey, Creative Christian, Jeremy here with another Author 2.0 insight into the author journey in this modern publishing world. For a few videos, I have taken the sort of opportunity to have a little chat about the way that us Christian writers should enter into the market and market our books. What does that mean to market our books? And should we market our books? And we've talked about how really what marketing is it's making a connection with readers. That is what I call gospel-wise marketing. It's not something slick or slimy or sleazy. It's not about drawing attention to yourself entirely, or your books. Rather, the purpose is to leverage who you are and your experiences, perspectives, insights through your stories, your studies, and resources, instead to draw attention to Jesus and to leverage your works, your passion projects, wielding the pen for the sake of the cross and the gospel. That is why we write. It's also why we market. We connect our books to readers in order to help them solve problems, in order to offer escape and entertainment for their busy, chaotic, hectic lives. It's a way that we're able to love our neighbor, and I think it is actually a very practical way that we can love our neighbor. It sounds almost like we're using the gospel or over-spiritualizing this sort of aspect of writing and publishing, doesn't it? To just sort of stamp this process of connecting and marketing with the gospel and the Bible. But I think it's actually very true that the way we love our neighbor is sharing what we've written with them. If somebody has a problem and we have the solution to that problem, whether it's a book or a hammer or a cup of water, we're called to pass that along. And in thinking through how we go about doing that, I wanted to come back with another practical way to go about making those connections and sharing what we've done using this sort of gospel-wise marketing effort. And I was reminded about one of these aspects, one of these practical ways, in this interview, this old interview I saw recently that Steve Jobs gave about his company, Apple Computers. This was, of course, before he passed a decade or so ago, and he was talking about the Apple brand. Now, if you've been around the Apple block, you probably have a very clear idea in your head what that brand is. I first encountered that brand 30 years ago when I was 10 years old, and my dad surprised our family with a brand new Macintosh Classic, one of those all-in-one beige cubes. Didn't have a hard drive, the system and the program ran off a floppy disk. That's how old I am. That's how long I've been in the computer world, but also the Apple world. And so I love Apple. I love their products, their phones, their watches. This is created on an Apple product, a Mac Mini with a studio display. So I have in my mind a very clear idea of what a brand is. And Steve Jobs boiled down branding and brand to one word, which I thought was super interesting. And I think it's super practical and a super intuitive and practical way for Christian writers to think about themselves and their own brand. Because whether or not you like it or think about it, you have a brand. A brand is simply what people think about you when you're not around. And so people, when they encounter our works, when they encounter our books, they are thinking things about who we are, about our stories, about our storytelling, about the resources we offer, whether or not we can help them, whether or not they're useful or practical and get results, or offer escape or entertainment. That's what brand is. And he boiled actually it down to something very much more basic and simpler, and he used the word trust. He said brand is trust. And he likened it to a bank account where you are building trust with every single product you put into the market and share and connect with consumers and buyers. You're either depositing into that bank account by giving them a good experience. People walk away loving their iPod or their new phone or their watch or their computer. It's all integrated. It just works. They don't have to worry about anything else but just creating. That's the Apple brand. You trust when you get their product, it's quality, it is made well, it just works, everything fits together. You're not going to have the headache of integrating software and hardware because it's painless, seamless. These are some of the words I use when I think about the Apple brand. But on the flip side, if it's a bad experience, you are withdrawing trust from that bank account, aren't you? If you've used other PC products, maybe Windows, Android, and it's a poorly made product, or you have a various differing version of Android or Chrome, the Chrome OS, and there's a new sort of Android program that doesn't work with the new Chrome OS, and now you've just broke the entire system is now broken. Your entire process for working and creating is now destroyed because one version doesn't work with this new version of the OS. So your trust in Chrome or the app or the Chromebook or the ecosystem is now in deficit because of that experience. And Jobs said that we as creators or as producers should not worry about our brand or our branding. What we need to really worry about is our customer experience. How people encounter our product, us, and what they walk away feeling or thinking about that experience. He said that if we have a good brand, people trust us to give them a good product and a good experience. And if something goes wrong, they know that they'll be taken care of if they have trust in that brand. And so for him, his focus was on those basics, making the best product possible, giving consumers, computer users, the best buying experience possible and the best computing experience possible. That takes care of the customer, doesn't it? When you are focusing all of your efforts down to that experience and giving them something they trust, increasing that trust increases their brand experience and their impression of that brand. Why do I say this? For you as a writer, as a Christian author, especially when it comes to marketing and making those connections. In my own experience with marketing as a writer the past 5 years, hardcore as a full-time professional fiction writer, but especially the last decade, having written devotionals and resources and other studies on top of now my more fiction focus, this is where I have shifted in my own emphasis when it comes to how I make those connections. Building trust with my readers, one book at a time, one reading experience at a time. In order to build my brand, people's impression of me, their trust in me, for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of directing their attention then into a connection with the heart of God, their experience of Christ himself, and giving insight and inspiration for their own journey with him. Paul speaks about believers living such good lives among the pagans, the world around us, that they then glorify God when he returns. There is this mindset among believers that we are supposed to, how we live in the world, regardless of the marketing part of it, but just our lives with the people around us impacts their impression of God and Christ. And that is why as Christian marketers, Christian readers or Christian writers who are marketing to readers, whether Christians or not, we should focus on their experience of us, their experience of us as an author, us as a writer, and our stories. That's a very practical way that you can control that connection, that connecting experience between your books and your readers. A very practical way you can enter into that marketing experience in controlling people's impression of you as a writer, as a storyteller, as a helpful resourcer, not for the sake of your own self and platform and bank account. Instead, it's about people's impressions of Jesus and them glorifying God upon his coming because of their encounter of him through you and your books, your stories, your helpful resources. That comes through time. That comes from deliberate tactics on your part, using marketing strategy in order to build an ecosystem of connection by sharing your works in a way that builds trust, increases their impression of you, your brand, and then leads to more encounters with Christ through more encounters with your books. Which, of course, those encounters are them buying your books. We've talked about it's okay for you to sell, it's okay for people to buy. Because you got to make a living. This isn't simply a hobby if you have taken the steps to make this more of a long-term professional career. Part of that is making money and building a business, and that business will build because of people's impressions of you and people's trust of you in your stories and your resources. That's the whole marketing gig. That's what it means to market. We've talked about it means creating connections, simply sharing your resources, your studies to be helpful and offer escape and entertainment. And the ways you do that, you go about doing that, is building connections either through spending money or spending time. That comes with time, that comes over time. And my encouragement to you as a Christian writer who is entering into the market, making connections through marketing, is to be okay with the time and the money it takes to build that trust, to build your brand, because it's all about those impressions people have of you and your writing, in order to build people's impressions and connections with Christ through the gospel. That is what I have sought to build as a Christian writer through this gospel-wise marketing effort for my own author journey, my own writing career. Building connections, sharing what I've written, the stories, the resources, in order to be helpful, in order to inspire, in order to bring insight into the Christian faith, all so that people will encounter the heart of God and make their own connection to the radical heart of Christ through his gospel. That's what marketing is, and that's what my encouragement to you is as a marketer as you enter into the market with your stories. You have permission to market, and this is how you market, creating connections, building trust, one story, one resource at a time.